Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring one of the most famous figures in all of literary history, Peter Pan. Now, we all know the magic, right? The flying, the epic adventures in Neverland. But the true story behind the creation of this iconic character? It's a fascinating, deeply bittersweet, and honestly, super emotional journey. We're going to trace J.M. Barrie's very real, very human path to Peter Pan, looking at the real-life inspirations and the profound tragedies that shaped a story beloved by literally millions. It's kind of the ultimate question, isn't it? Where did the boy who wouldn't grow up actually come from? I mean, he didn't just magically appear out of nowhere. Okay, let's dive into this because the answer actually lies in a wild mix of heartbreaking childhood trauma, a chance encounter in a London park, and this desperate burning desire to preserve the innocence of youth.
Section 1. A Tragedy in Childhood, the Psychological Seed of Neverland.
So to really understand Peter Pan, we have to start at the very beginning of the author's life. James Matthew Barrie was born in 1860 in Scotland, the ninth of 10 kids in a pretty conservative Calvinist family. But the defining moment of his early life happened in 1873. When Barrie was just 6 years old, his older brother David, who, by the way, was his mother's absolute favorite, tragically died in an ice skating accident. And what makes this even more gut-wrenching is that David died just one single day before his 14th birthday. Naturally, their mother was completely devastated. She basically became bedridden with grief. But eventually, she found this strange, dark comfort in one specific thought. Because David died so young, he would remain a boy forever. He would never grow up, and he would never leave her. And this right here, this is the absolute core, the very foundation of the entire Peter Pan mythos. Young James desperately tried to fill this massive void left by his brother just to win his mother's affection. He would literally wear David's clothes and practice whistling the exact same way his brother used to. It's incredibly sad. He later wrote this biographical account of his mother where he shared a truly heartbreaking memory. He walked into her room one day and she heard him and said, "Is that you?" Totally thinking it was the ghost of her dead favorite son. And Barrie recalled speaking in this little lonely voice saying, "No, it's not him, it's just me." That profound sense of loss and that desperate longing to freeze time, that became the emotional anchor for absolutely everything Barrie would write later in life.
Section 2. The Llewelyn Davies Boys, a Fateful Encounter in the Park.
All right, let's fast forward a few decades. Barrie is now an adult, living in London, and he's carving out a pretty successful career as a writer. But it's a totally chance meeting that finally sparks the magic. In 1897, while he was out walking his massive St. Bernard dog Porthos in Kensington Gardens, Barrie crossed paths with the Llewelyn Davies boys, George, Jack, and baby Peter, along with their nurse, Mary Hodgson. And Barrie was instantly captivated by them. He used his own unique brand of physical comedy to totally win them over. I mean, he would wiggle his ears and his eyebrows, and he would even dance around the park with his giant dog. He quickly became this beloved fixture in their lives, earning the nickname Uncle Jim. He really grounded his whimsical imagination in his very real, very joyful friendship with these kids.
Section 3. Forging the Mythos. Playtime becomes legend.
Now, the games they played weren't just passing fun, you know? They were literally the blueprints for Neverland. To entertain George and Jack, Barrie started spinning these elaborate yarns, and it brilliantly illustrates how he built the myth step by step. First, he told the boys that all babies were actually birds before they were born. Then he pointed out that parents put bars on nursery windows not for safety, but to keep the little ones from flying away. And finally, he took it one step further and invented a tale specifically for them, a story about a baby boy who actually did fly away. And just like that, the character of Peter Pan took flight.
But the adventures didn't stay in London. The Davies family would join Barrie out at his retreat, Black Lake Cottage. And out there, the boys played out these epic summer adventures. They pretended to be castaways living on an island and fighting off vicious pirates. Barrie actually documented these games in a 1901 photo book he made just for the family called The Boy Castaways. And right within these summer games lies the foundational lore for the Lost Boys, the island of Neverland, and the pirate battles that we all know so well today. Now, here's something that's really fascinating. The literary lineage of Peter Pan's greatest enemy. Where exactly did Captain Hook come from? Well, Barrie was widely read, and he corresponded with other great authors, including Robert Louis Stevenson, the guy who wrote Treasure Island in 1883. Stevenson gave us Captain Long John Silver, right? A pirate who was cheerful, intelligent, and almost gentlemanly, before revealing his absolute ruthlessness. Barrie took clear inspiration from this. He created Captain Hook as an educated man, a true gentleman who consciously chose a life of piracy and treachery. Barrie even directly referenced alternative names for silver, like sea cook and barbecue, in his own novel. It's just a wonderful example of how Barrie blended the boys' playtime with these classic literary tropes.
Section 4. The play that changed everything. The evolution of Peter Pan. Okay, let's move to and see how this builds, because the character we know today absolutely didn't just arrive fully formed in a single book. Peter Pan's publication history is actually kind of complex. He first popped up in 1902 in an adult novel called The Little White Bird, but get this, he was just a 7-day-old infant who flew out of his nursery. Then, on December 27, 1904, the legendary stage play Peter Pan, or The Boy Who Wouldn't Grow Up, premiered in London's West End. And this is where we finally meet Wendy, Captain Hook, and an older Peter. Finally, in 1911, Barrie adapted that smash hit play into the finalized novel most of us recognize today, which was originally titled Peter and Wendy. Now, here is absolutely one of my favorite facts from the sources. Have you ever wondered why Peter Pan uses fairy dust to fly? Well, in the original 1902 origin story, Peter could fly simply because, as we mentioned, all babies were part bird. But once the 1904 stage play became a massive runaway hit, a very practical problem emerged. Children in the audience were going home trying to fly by jumping off their beds, and they were literally injuring themselves. So to put a stop to this, Barrie had to quickly add a new rule to the mythology. You can't fly unless you were sprinkled with fairy dust first. It was a brilliant magical solution to a very real-world safety hazard. Total game changer. Section 5. A lasting legacy. A gift to the children. As we conclude this explainer, we really have to look at the bittersweet aftermath of this incredible story, because the real world, unfortunately, is not Neverland. Both Arthur and Sylvia Llewelyn Davies died young, leaving their 5 boys orphaned. Barrie, who had been financially supporting them anyway, stepped up and became their unofficial guardian. But the tragedy didn't stop there. George, the oldest, died in combat during World War I at age 21, and Michael, who was deeply, deeply close to Barrie, drowned in a bathing pool at Oxford when he was just 20. The very boys who inspired the myth of eternal youth were tragically cut down in their own youth, which casts a really dark, somber shadow over the legacy of the story. Yet out of all this intense grief, Barrie managed to do something profoundly beautiful. The absolutely crucial point here is what he did in April of 1929. He gave the entire copyright of the Peter Pan works to Great Ormond Street Hospital, which is a leading children's hospital in London. This meant that all the royalties from the books, the plays, and eventually the movies would go directly to funding care for sick children. He literally used his story about a boy who never grows up to help real ailing kids heal, survive, and actually get the chance to grow up themselves. Parliament even passed a special act to ensure this generous gift continues for literally as long as the hospital exists. J.M. Barrie's path to Peter Pan is just this incredibly powerful reminder that our greatest fantasies are so often born from our deepest, sometimes darkest realities. It's a story of profound loss, of the pure joy found in a London park, and of a legacy that continues to heal children even today. So I want to leave you with this thought as we wrap up this explainer. Knowing the incredible, bittersweet history of the boy who wouldn't grow up, what parts of your own childhood do you refuse to let go of? Thanks for joining me on this one, and keep exploring.